This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is Warden Chris Peabody from Bruce County. And I have to say, Chris, you are a man on the move.
It's been a busy 2 years.
Well, actually, what I was thinking of at this time of year, I always ask the politicians on Politically Speaking about events like AMO.
Yeah.
And I understand that were you trying to set a Guinness Book of World Records for delegations that you were a part of? One media report said you were involved in 12 delegations.
I made it to 12. I had more on the list. I could have made it to more, but there were a few double booked. So yeah, I did 12. And it was up in Ottawa. And this year, because there were more attendees than ever, they had the meeting room spread over 5 city blocks. So I knew ahead of time that I'd have to be doing a lot of walking. So I abandoned my fancy dress shoes and I went down to Becker's and bought a brand new pair of Hokas just for AMO. And I didn't care if they clashed with my business suit. So yeah, I was running around a lot.
Is this a new warden's tradition? I mean, doesn't the finance minister always buy a new pair of shoes for the budget?
For the budget, yeah. Well,
so the warden of Bruce County is buying a new pair of shoes to go to AMO.
New shoes for delegations. That's right.
Yes, and just to be clear, they were not put on the county tab.
No, they were not. But I certainly didn't want to show up at the meetings with sore feet. I wanted to focus on the business at hand.
Very true. Very true.
For Bruce County. What
was the reception that you received? I've heard from a number of politicians about the reception they felt. What's your take on the delegation reception?
Well, there was a whole variety from just the fantastic, where I got $6 million grant for a project that I've been advocating for in training for construction workers. That was like the grand slam home run with the Ministry of Labor. And then there was ones where it's an ongoing advocacy. So I'll give you an example with this. I had a lot of meetings with the Solicitor General across my 3 roles there. And I've been lobbying a long time for full-time funding for mental health ride-alongs for our police services. And right now, I believe Owen Sound is getting the grant and West Grey is. But other municipalities are left out. I certainly fully support those municipalities getting the grant. But these mental health ride-alongs with the mental health nurses, with the police, have been shown to reduce a lot of costs to the healthcare system and to the legal system. I believe we need full-time funding for every police service in all of Ontario, and didn't really get anywhere with that. It's the funding split across 2 ministries, Health, Solicitor General. So one will just pass it off to the other. And but I'm going to keep pushing for it because I know what a valuable program it is. Our frontline officers really appreciate it.
Does OPP policing have a factor in this? Because Owen Sound and West Grey both have their own police services. Saugeen Shores has its own police services, but if they do it for one OPP detachment, I guess they might have to do it for all of them.
It's on a grants basis. Each municipality, not the police service, files for the grant, and I think that's a big issue too. A lot of the mayors getting quite upset about having to apply for grants for everything, whether it's mental health ride-alongs, sewers, water towers. It just seems every department we have is now overwhelmed, spending their time writing grants, and then the success rate is very mixed. So there's a lot of advocacy at AMO that system has to change. There's got to be some more dedicated funding for paying for the infrastructure, for example. The MCERT, not as much. That's really, more of a focus of mine that I've picked up on.
You make a valid point that if municipalities have to write grant after grant after grant, it takes up staff time. but it also, if the grant is declined, that has an immediate effect on the budget if you want to continue what is perceived as a valuable or value-added service.
Yeah, some projects have to be funded. A few years ago, we had a big street rehabilitation in Walkerton, and people's water lines kept freezing in the winter, and we kept losing out on the grant. So we just had to fund it 100% from the taxpayers because the people were getting so upset over a few winters of their water not working. So we had to bite the bullet, fund it fully.
Sure. Well, and that's reflected in the tax rate and people's taxes. And hey, we all know, don't want my taxes to go up. Well, there is a price, I guess.
So there was a big advocacy by AMO to have the province give more dedicated funding, and one
Yeah.
of the announcements of the premier was no. Despite all the work AMO's done on the dedicated funding, no. So
Well, that allegedly at this point, and as we speak, it's late October. There may be a provincial election, so who knows what's going to happen going forward. You never know whether that issue will become an election issue.
yeah, I think yeah, I don't know if that will resonate with the voters. You know, the infrastructure deficit and the ballot box, the province. And I'm not sure what issues will be important. Certainly, healthcare will probably be more prominent, given what's
Certainly
happening.
in Grey Bruce, healthcare is a huge issue. But I want to come back to something which is um, kind of related, but it's one of the things that I think it's an important issue. It's an election. Will be an election issue, I'm sure, and that's housing.
Yes.
And housing is, I'm hearing this all across Grey Bruce, and I'm sure you are too. What is Bruce County doing to positively affect the housing situation?
Well, one of the interesting things that we're building into this year's budget is funding $50,000 for somebody who wants to build an additional dwelling unit on their property. So we'll be looking for somebody to take us up on that and be an innovative project. And hopefully it takes off and we can build a number of those additional dwelling units on people's properties.
That's called an additional residential unit, and that's what the province certainly wants, ARUs. But this is just one amount, one person, one grant as kind of a one-shot deal?
No, we're looking for people to pick up on it, and then if it's successful, we'll certainly fund more of it. Just we're experimenting, seeing what happens.
Sure. To see what the appetite for the public is to add something and
the appetite is, and then of course, is it successful? Will it help out a family in need? And my daughter's moving back to the area, and she's going to be looking for a job up in Owen Sound. She's leaving London, England after 10 years, and couldn't believe the rents up there when I was looking at the listings for her.
Well, it probably won't be of any help to her, but there were two approvals given this week for residential development, one of which will be very much a rental apartment complex on the BCK property. So, yeah, hey, no, as I always say to your colleague, Mr. Mayor Body, when are the bulldozers going to start pushing dirt?
Yeah.
And, I always have to sit back and say, okay, when will this come forward? So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm sure there are lots of other developments going on as well.
One of those was the one by the arena, the Life Lease project.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that would be good to see that get going. And then the BCK one, it's on a brownfield. Those are tough to develop.
Yeah.
As long as he's got his certificate from the Minister of the Environment, phase 3 assessment, record of site condition, then they're good to go. We found that down in Walker, and we've got a few brownfields, and the municipality's totally kept out of the process. And if they don't get their approval, you never really find out. The property just sort of sits there. But they'll get a certificate number and they bring it to the building official of the town, and then they can go ahead. But other than that, everything's kept away from the municipalities about the amount of toxins on those sites or what's needed to clean it up. But I'd really hope that BCK site gets going. That'd be a great one for Owen Sound, very walkable.
Very,
residents,
very.
and that would just really be a great boost to the downtown there. So I'd love to see that for Owen Sound.
Well, we shall see. And those kinds of developments are right across Grey Bruce. There are developers who are just I wouldn't say waiting with money in hand, waiting with, we hope, construction materials in hand to get going here.
Yeah, we've got 2 brownfields that I don't think are going to get going in Walkerton. They've been cleared of the buildings, but I don't know what the testing revealed. I do know the old-time workers who used to work in those factories didn't really have a positive assessment of what might be there.
Yes, I recall some municipal workers when a certain building was built here in Owen Sound. Hey, that's the garbage dump.
Yeah, the old-timers know
They do.
where the toxics are.
They often do. They
Yeah.
often do. So the process for the application for the ARU grant is open, or will it be passed? Is it something that's coming?
It'll have to be passed in the budget. And we've had our initial budget meeting. I don't think that one faced any turbulence. We're looking at 6.8% for Bruce County. That was the initial offer of the staff. I do know some of the mayors are a little bit concerned about going that high, given that the rate of inflation now is 1.6. So you don't like to be that far above inflation, but you don't want to be under inflation, of course, or otherwise you're not properly funding your services. One thing in there that's a bit contentious I picked up on is 7 new hires, 7 new staff added to the county, total of $772,000. So I think we'll have to, I as warden certainly will be pushing the staff to justify those positions. And
what area are they in? Do you know?
they're spread across the board. Yeah.
One of the issues over in Grey County is the movement of planning up to the county. But doesn't Bruce have all planning is done at the county?
Yeah, we do it that way. That happened back in the 80s. We had Don Scott, who he and his daughter run Quest of Planning in downtown Owen Sound there now. He was our director of planning in the 80s, and he envisioned this system because he saw when we had 33 municipalities, a lot of them couldn't do their own planning or even come close to it. And they had to hire private sector planners, do their planning, just as some of your smaller municipalities in Grey do. And so he envisioned pulling this all together. The county would be contracted to do planning. The money for that would come out of the county side of your tax bill. So the municipalities would be no cost. And it's worked out pretty well. Some of the municipalities from time to time object to some of the more stringent regulations the county enforces. But we've had several reviews of the system, and it's held together over those 30, 40 years. And certainly when you're sitting on the town side and you're looking at your tax bill and you don't have any planning costs, that's greatly appreciated. And I know it's contentious, and I saw that Owen Sound has some concerns, and I can see if you're a big city like Owen Sound or a small city, and you've already got your own planning staff, how you may object to the county taking over. But if you're a small municipality like Chatsworth, I think it would be it's a great benefit to them. So even at the Walkerton level, we're mid-size, 11,000 people. I think it's beneficial. I couldn't see us. I floated the idea and looked at it, but I couldn't see us practically having our own planner versus the service we get from the county. So it's a good idea. I don't know where the county's at with it yet. Maybe a few of them could join if Owen Sound doesn't want to.
But I think also town of Blue Mountains raised some questions as well. So it's certainly not unanimous, but it's certainly contentious in discussion. That's a certitude.
Well, it'll be especially contentious if it gets forced on one that doesn't want it in a vote.
Yeah,
I know Gray County has all sorts of those weighted split votes going on all the time.
that's correct. Yeah,
But
yeah, that's not the case in Bruce, is it?
no, I think in Bruce we've got with just the 8 mayors, it's a lot more. You don't get just with 8 people, it's a lot easier to make decisions and get consensus. So we don't usually have split votes at all. And in my first term, Luke Charbonneau used to call weighted votes a few times because he had all the weight, right? 17,000 people in, but he hasn't done that during my term as warden. I didn't talk to him about it, but he decided on his own maybe that pulling the weighted vote thing caused some negative feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So he voluntarily decided to censor himself on that. And I think that's gone a ways to building trust and collaboration. So no, we don't get those on our side. That's not to say the next council, you could get new people in and you could get those things happening. But when you've got 16 people or 17, like in Gray, you're going to get greater divisions.
Sure. No, no. Speaking of planning, your official plan is up for conversation, and there has
Yes, it is.
certainly been conversation from what I've read.
Yes. So there's two municipalities that are leading the charge, and we don't have a report yet on all of the objections, but I do know that South Bruce Peninsula, Mayor Kirkland, he's very upset with his CBO about proposed restrictions on building in Sauble Beach, whether it's additions or new builds. The OP will require a nitrate study. And the trick with those nitrate studies is if it's over a certain threshold, I think it's 10 units, then you can't build. But if the nitrates are coming from your neighbor's septic, you still can't build. It's not just nitrates on your property, but if it's leaking, you can't build. So if you're the last one in to a neighborhood, you can get shut out on this policy. So, of course, South Bruce Peninsula, that's in their elections, that's where most people vote. Twice as many people vote in Sauble as Wyerton. So that's really their base. Even though it's not a core urban center, it's their base of support and votes. So they're very concerned about that. And their CBO's written some long letters opposing the county, and the county's fired back and saying we're just following provincial policy. So I think maybe now I see North Bruce Peninsula. They're concerned. They've hired their own private planner to vet the county plan, and they're having a meeting next week. The North Bruce Peninsula. Maybe South Bruce Peninsula. I suggest this to Jay. Maybe you need to hire your own planner. And then we've got Brockton. My own Brockton. We're not happy with the we're not being allowed to expand our urban boundary because there's when it comes to housing, there's a regional formula. And as Saugeen Shores has plenty of land for housing, they're not allowing us to have any more in the quota system. So we don't like that. Saugeen Shores can grow, but we want a level playing field. We shouldn't be limited. And so the county had proposed that we just wait on our amendment, but Brockton staff and council didn't like that. So when the county came out to present their plan, parallel to their presentation, we revealed that we were going our own on the OP, and we're unilaterally doing our own amendment. Independent, the OP. So that's a bit contentious. Also.
We just lost your microphone.
Uh-oh.
There we go. Okay.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So unilaterally, Brockton is going to amend their plan outside of the official plan. So there's 3 contentious ones going on. I don't know if anybody else will join in. I know Saugeen Shores is not. They're okay. I don't know if Kingsburn well.
And Aaron Eldersley hasn't been heard from.
I think they're okay. They just want their big thing is they'd like somebody to develop some of the land that is zoned in Paisley.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't had any development on a little 20-acre piece they have zoned. So they'd like
Sure.
to do that, but it's already zoned, so it's outside of the OP mandate. So it'll be coming up for a vote, and the council will be presented with a list of objections, and there will be a choice of council just to override staff and put those objections into the OP, or take them out of the OP, or put them in, whichever the objection goes. And I can see us coming down to that. As I said, we're quite a collaborative group, so I can see council doing some overrides,
Sure.
but I'm getting ahead of myself. So
Well, we don't want the warden to predict anything because I remember a lawyer telling me, he said 95% of all cases are decided on the steps of the courthouse before you go to trial.
Yeah.
So let's just say that the same might be true for municipal politics, that often agreements can be made or conversations can be had on the steps of City Hall or the municipal the county building. And
yes, well, that's what happened 15 months ago with our DC charges. We didn't have any, and we had a DC charge bylaw coming forward. A lot of mayors didn't want them, so we made a lot of changes, just as you suggested, just before we got into the meeting. And I think there's more earmarks in that DC bylaw of Bruce County than something you'd see in the American Congress. So each council each lower tier has a earmark to satisfy their needs and give them some exemptions.
right,
So
right. Well, it's quite the system, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, I also wanted to talk a bit about transit because, I mean, when we talk about Bruce County, we don't always talk about transit, but transit is becoming more important. I just noticed that there is a private service that has announced itself running from Port Elgin to London, which is a restoration of the old Grey Coach Lines route, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard that.
But you also said that there's something in the budget for that too for transit.
Well, on the Gray Transit route, we're partners with Gray, and we had a route into Walkert, and it didn't work out, so that was canceled by Gray. But Bruce County was understood. There's good ridership numbers going up into Sauble Beach, so we're funding that program to the end of the year out of our tax base. But we did advocate with the province for permanent funding for that route. It's very well subscribed to, Wyerton, Sauble Beach. We had a good meeting. There were two deputy ministers at the meeting. Nobody on the political side, but many times it's better to get the decision makers there, as well as my staff. So we had a good meeting with them. There's the GTR program, though, that funding it was canceled this year. So there's a brand new funding envelope. So we have to work with Grey County to reapply and include that route in it. And we'd like $150,000 to keep that going. So we're going to work with Grey on that. However, as with all grants, we've got all sorts of counties all over Ontario competing against us now. Right. Yeah. It would be a real tragedy if that GTR route was left totally unfunded by the province. Grey County would have they already took some cutbacks last year. And so that flips back to this whole thing about grants, where all the employees, everybody's just wondering, how will that work out? One interesting thing they've added to the funding envelope for transit is to include First Nations this time around. So we've passed an Indigenous engagement framework for the county. We passed that in July. So we'll be working with, in this case, it would be Namishining, to see if they would be able to tap into the Wyerton route. And of course, then it'd have to be a 3-party application with their band council and Bruce Gray. But that's what I was advocating on behalf of, and I did mention our positive engagement with the Saginaw Ojibwe, and certainly the bureaucrats really liked that story that I had to tell them.
Yes, Saginaw Ojibwe Nation is certainly on a main road, on a main route, and could certainly use the transit. But so could Neamishbay, because I just happened to take that drive last week, and it was a beautiful drive, lovely fall day. But hey, I was driving from Owen Sound, and that's a 40-minute drive,
Yeah.
and that's and when you get up there, you realize that the road into the Cape is twisty, long,
Mhm.
and it gives the community a sense of isolation. But it also it's I'm sure for the community it's very hard to get into town, so to speak.
Yes, and in my engagement that came up. So that used to be a county road,
Hmm.
but it was delisted maybe 25 years ago, switched to the municipality, and because of that, they have a lower standard of service now. So in the winter, that road, it's 12K from the county road. It's only plowed once a day.
Ooh,
And that is the standard because our lower tiers out in the country, we only have one shift. Get up in the morning, they plow, and unless something major happens, we don't send them back out and put them on overtime. Whereas the county has two shifts that go out, two sets, a night morning one and a afternoon one. So they recognize that once they get up to Cairo 9, well, it's plowed in the afternoon. But then to get up there, they're going over a road that's not plowed. It is a safety issue. So the question was put to me by Son, how can a community of 800 be so far off a class 3 road where, you get the plowing? And well, I agreed with them. And so we're working on that. It'll involve some money. South Bruce Peninsula, their CAO is asking them what they would like to see, and then the county will be involved. But it is an excellent, I think it's a great case study of reconciliation. If we can't get that right to provide safe transportation in the winter, then all the talk about reconciliation then is just talk.
yeah.
And I'm supportive of the concept, so I've asked my staff, let's put some numbers to it and see how much it costs. And all three parties will probably have to put something in, be involved some way, but I don't have any details how much it'll cost. We're just starting that, but it'll be a very good case study in reconciliation if I can get the plowing there, it'd be a great success story. But I think if my plan doesn't work out, then it won't be a good. It'll be a negative. But I'm going to push away at it and see what happens.
Well, with that, Chris, thank you so much. We're out of time.
We're out of time. Okay.
But thank you once again. It's always interesting to hear the story from stories from Bruce County. Some of this stuff doesn't make the media very much.
Oh, no.
Very first on Rogers, but really appreciate your time today, and to thank you very much. And to you friends who are watching, thank you for joining me on Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. We'll talk again.
Thank you.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com. You're watching Rogers TV.